Anime begins with a teenager, Wakana Gojo, who is an insecure yet enthusiastic Hina doll tailor. Gojo isolates himself as a result of his pastime for fear of being mocked. One day, Gojo meets Marin Kitagawa, a very famous student in the school. Kitagawa comes after school and urges him that must be truthful about his actual emotions. That evening, Gojo wonders about what Kitagawa said to him. When his grandpa's sewing machine breaks down and wishes he could get a new machine. Whereas a brand new sewing machine is just being shipped, Gojo decides to use the one in his school's sewing room. Even so, Kitagawa shows up, and rather than bullying and making fun of him, she shows her awe for his dressmaking abilities. Kitagawa abruptly removes her clothes and demonstrates to Gojo a costume getup of a gaming character Kitagawa has started to work on, which he unintentionally disparages. She then Gojo if he could make one for her, trying to explain how valuable Shizuku Kuro is to her. Even though he has never sewn cloths for an actual human before, Gojo offers to help her and promised he will do his best. Gojo is confused when Kitagawa describes her wish to cosplay as Shizuku, a female avatar from the adult computer game Slippery Girls 2. She further explains that gender is irrelevant when you're doing something you like, to which he agreed. She then hands him a book with instructions for building imitation costumes. The following day, an excited Kitagawa appears unannounced at Gojo's store. Gojo is uncomfortable overtaking her measurements undressed, but Kitagawa, unaffected, strips down to show she is wearing a swimming suit. When he asks whether she finds this uncomfortable, she replies that she does not. As a result, Gojo throws away his impure sentiments and starts professionally measuring Kitagawa. And even with composed thoughts, a befuddled Gojo struggles to measure her bust and inseam, but he finally gets the full measurements. Gojo afterward questions Kitagawa about any references she has for Shizuku, provoking the girl to tell him both Slippery Girls titles. The following night, much to his grandpa's displeasure, Gojo played the game for study purposes. Gojo has a wet dream about Kitagawa the night before going back to school. Gojo tries to avoid Kitagawa as much as possible at school. She eventually finds him at the school gate and starts asking if he would want to go shopping for the outfit's materials. Gojo, on the other hand, regretfully rejects it. As Kitagawa spots him, Gojo confesses why he fled. She tells him that they are friends, despite his poor self-esteem. They go shopping at several stores. They go to the noodles shop later that night, where they embarrassed and frighten the other customers by discussing the Slippery Girls games. Heading back, Gojo says to Kitagawa that owing to his profession, he can only say things are pretty when he genuinely means them. Kitagawa discusses an approaching cosplay event in 2 weeks before they part ways. Gojo feels concerned when he realizes how little time he has. Gojo is anxious because the following cosplay event is in 2 weeks. When Gojo returns home, his grandpa collapses after watching one of Gojo's stuff fall from his bag. As a consequence, Gojo rushes him to the hospital, where he is joined by his cousin, Midori. Gojo tells what occurred to Kitagawa at school. She shows genuine concern for him and offers to assist him in any way she can, so they exchange contact details. A fatigued Gojo feels depressed as a result of all the activities he had to complete until he recalls a discussion he used to have with his grandpa, which re-energizes him. To Kitagawa's amazement, Gojo tells her the next day that he finished the costume. Gojo is happy after realizing that he still has time after she acknowledges she did not clearly explain the situation to him. Kitagawa, on the other hand, bursts into tears and apologizes sincerely. Gojo tries to calm her down by reminding her that it will be worthwhile if she likes her costume. Kitagawa is overjoyed with her outfit when she puts it on. Kitagawa eagerly requests that Gojo photograph her. When he does, he instructs her to posture more like Shizuku. Kitagawa posts the photos on social media after she is satisfied with the outcome. She then informs Gojo that they would be attending a cosplay party the next day. When they show up, Kitagawa is thrilled, whereas Gojo is more reserved. So many participants later reach Kitagawa to take her photos. While watching Kitagawa enjoy fun, Gojo wonders whether this is the last time they would hang out together, because he completed his promise and have no reason to stick together. When they meet, she says that her outfit is getting painful because of the scorching heat, so they go inside to chill down and release her anxiety. Kitagawa assures Gojo that they will go back to the mall one final time before departing. She runs into a woman who had earlier requested her for a picture. Kitagawa, to his relief, asks Gojo which costume they should focus on next when they return home. A sleepy Gojo then compliments her on her beauty. Kitagawa is taken aback when she recalls Gojo's earlier comments on the subject. When Gojo's grandpa gets home, he is surprised to see Gojo and Kitagawa together. Kitagawa realizes she has fallen in love with Gojo after they resolve the situation. As they have dinner, Kitagawa talks to Gojo and his grandpa about her family background and poor eating habits. A little girl comes to the store the next day in a rainstorm, and Gojo's grandpa brings her inside. Sejuna Inui subsequently tells Gojo she wants to order a cosplay costume after an awkward first encounter and confusion, admitting that she's Juju, the cosplayer Kitagawa mentioned earlier. Kitagawa is taken aback by Juju's appearance when she comes. During their conversation, Juju mentions her wish to dress up as Shion Nikaido, a figure from the animation series Flower Princess Blaze, that Kitagawa enjoys. When Juju asked Kitagawa why she doesn't want to roleplay as Shion, even though she likes this character, she says it's because their body types aren't similar. For this, Juju has a great deal of admiration for Kitagawa as a cosplayer. Before she goes, Juju requests Gojo's contact details. She then understands Gojo and Kitagawa are not in a relationship. Juju turns down Kitagawa's request to perform a group cosplay until Kitagawa and Gojo agree to divide the studio expense. Gojo chooses to watch Flower Princess Blaze for purposes of research. Later that same night, his grandfather compliments him on his progress and encourages him to continue honing his dressmaking and makeup abilities with Kitagawa. Gojo arrives at Kitagawa's apartment the next day and finds her messy. When she eventually invites him in, she offers they watch the show together. Kitagawa realizes she is having a home date with Gojo while they are doing so. Gojo offers he will buy something for her because she was hungry when. Kitagawa, on the other hand, insists on preparing a home-cooked supper. Although everything did not go as planned, Kitagawa is overjoyed when Gojo appreciates her omaris. Gojo contacts Juju from home and provides her with detailed sketches. Juju is surprised to find that Kitagawa's costume was his first attempt at cosplay. She reveals that her younger sister snaps her photographs before they hang up and decides to meet at a cafe. When Gojo and Kitagawa met the timid and reclusive Shinju Inui, they are taken aback by her huge stature and beautiful features. Shinju shows Kitagawa the camera she used to photograph Juju and starts discussing the various filters and options. They then go to the studio, which is housed in an abandoned hospital. Inside, Shinju demonstrates to Kitagawa the advantages of backlit photographs. Soon, Gojo encounters a terrified Juju, and they discuss their dreams. Gojo remembers a chat he had with his grandpa as Kitagawa explains why she picked him to create her cosplay costume. As a result, he joyfully holds Juju's hand, causing her to faint. Kitagawa invites Gojo to the beach after they finish their finals at school. A large seahawk steals Kitagawa's burger when they show up. Kitagawa chooses to jump into the water as they finish the last of the burgers. When meets her, Gojo admits that his obsession prevented him from visiting many locations as a youngster. Kitagawa, stunned, informs him that she would take him to various locations during their summer vacation. Kitagawa apologizes for what she has just stated. Gojo and Kitagawa return from the shop, carrying the ingredients for the Black Lobelia costume. Kitagawa then shows Gojo swimwear underneath her clothing and questions if it is okay for the cosplay. An embarrassed Gojo ultimately assures her that everything is all right. He is relieved that Kitagawa may now enjoy the delight of helping others. Later, Gojo gives Juju and Kitagawa their finished clothing before doing Kitagawa's cosmetics with Juju's help. The girls go to the hospital to await Gojo and Shinju. Shinju stuns the girls with masculine cosplay attire when they eventually arrive. Shinju verified Gojo's doubts about her urge to cosplay in a flashback to the day they first visited the hospital after Juju and Kitagawa had gone home. She stated she wants to costume as Soma, a male protagonist from Flower Princess Blaze, when he finally agreed to assist her. When Gojo accompanied Shinju to his workshop, they learned about a beholder, which was used to cope with her breast. They later talked when preparing Shinju's wig and makeup. Returning to the present, everybody poses for a group photo. Kitagawa and the Inui sisters hold their picture session at the hospital. Juju later praises Gojo for assisting Shinju in discovering her passion for cosplay. After finishing, Juju and Shinju come back home, where Juju reveals to Shinju that she is jealous of her ability to pull off such a costume. She then enjoys looking at photographs of Gojo. However, Gojo is on the call with Kitagawa, and she becomes jealous when he tells her Shinju is at his place. Kitagawa then says she wishes to dress up as Veronica, a dark-skinned figure, and they agreed to create that look digitally. Kitagawa, on the other hand, shows up at his place the next day with her complexion thoroughly darkened, with a foundation to match Veronica's skin color. Gojo was embarrassed when Kitagawa exposes her body, showing to explain to him how to put on the costume. Kitagawa brings Gojo to a clothes shop because she wants to purchase him clothes. Walking back, Gojo tells Kitagawa that he cannot assist her with the Veronica costume. She asks him why, surprised and worried, and he hastily responds that it is too exposing. She teases him and promises to pick her characters cautiously. Kitagawa invites Gojo to a manga cafe, but he is uncomfortable being alone with her. Kitagawa suggests a manga titled Sukusai di Kido Gojo while spending time and reveals her wish to cosplay as Liz the Succubus. She has concerns about her ability to pull it off, but she chooses to go forward with it when Gojo supports her. Despite this, he finds it difficult to create the costume because of the series' simplistic graphic style. Later, Gojo discovers that the studio Kitagawa arranged the photo shoot at is a love motel. Kitagawa ends up sitting on top of Gojo while reenacting several of the manga's positions. Gojo hears a couple having sex in the neighboring room after capturing the image. As a result, he attempts to pull Kitagawa off of him. He instead clutches her waist, inadvertently making her groan and turning off the light as she drops the phone on the switch. They look at each other, stunned, and almost kiss. But before they can proceed, they are contacted on their cell phone and informed that they must leave. In the privacy of his room at home, Gojo wonders about Kitagawa. When Gojo is assisting Kitagawa with her hair bows at her apartment, he finds that her father has withdrawn her invitation to a festival since she has not completed her schoolwork. She informs Gojo that she has been working for a magazine as a model to save money for a professional camera. Gojo is anxious when they decide to see a horror movie because he has never seen one before. By the conclusion of the film, though, he is examining the outfits, while Kitagawa is terrified. They then go to Kitagawa's school to recover her math exercises, and Gojo rescues Kitagawa from drowning when she falls into the pool. Kitagawa asks Gojo to the festival after she finishes her schoolwork, and he is taken aback when she arrives in a yukata, leaving her pleased. They watch the fireworks together, and when Kitagawa's feet hurt from walking in sandals, Gojo takes her home. Kitagawa phones Gojo from home, telling him she needs to hear his voice since she was afraid after viewing another scary movie alone. During their conversation, Gojo begins to fall sleepy and Kitagawa tells him she loves him as he passes out. There the season ends.